Today, my guest is Dee Dee Bridgewater. She is an NEA Jazz Master, three-time Grammy Award winner, and a Tony Award winner. She has become a transcendent purveyor of bebop, R&B, and the blues. Off stage, she has admirably displayed her multi-dimensional capabilities as a UN ambassador, radio host, and a mentor. She has used these platforms to globally promote humanitarian causes. Let's welcome Dee Dee into the gray zone. Know what to do. Lights, camera, action, rolling.
It was always Dee Dee. I was given that nickname when I was a baby, a toddler, in Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born, because as my mother explained to me, Denise was not a popular name when I was a little girl. And so the kids came and told my mother that they were going to call me Dee Dee, and it stuck. And in fact, Dee Dee is the name I prefer. I don't know Denise because Denise always seemed very formal to me. Dee Dee suggests warm, open, caring, funny. And so I've always really enjoyed being called Dee Dee. So much so that I've just changed my name to Dee Dee Bridgewater.
The one and only.
Mm-hmm.
Music is your life.
Yes.
It's your world. It's your love. It's your passion.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about you the other day, and I was listening to a song by the Soul Children. The Sweeter He Is.
The Sweeter He Is.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you were a little girl growing up in Memphis, what was some of the music that you were first
Well, I didn't
to?
grow up in Memphis. I was born in Memphis. My family migrated to Michigan, to Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
And Flint is where my mother was born.
Correct.
And so they left when I was 3.5. My father says he always used to correct me. So when I was 3.5 and my younger sister, Rhonda, was 1, we moved to Flint, Michigan. So that's where I grew up. But I discovered a radio station out of Memphis, WDIA, when I was a young teenager. And so I used to listen to all of this music that came out of Memphis. And the music for me from Memphis had a grittier, more soulful sound to it. And you could always hear a little gospel tinge to it than the music that I was hearing in Flint, which was the music that came out of Detroit and Motown, when Motown Records had started. So although I love the music from Motown, I used to always sneak and listen to WDIA because I couldn't catch it on my transistor radio.
Oh, transistor radio.
Yes, with my little rabbit ears, with the foil around it.
Gotta have the foil.
Yeah.
Make sure
So I couldn't catch that until after 11 o'clock, and I was supposed to be in bed. So I would put a blanket at my door and turn on WDIA at night. And that's where I first heard the Soul Children. That's when I first discovered Gladys Knight. That's when I started hearing, all of these artists that were recording in Memphis, and, Rufus Thomas, Carla Thomas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. We all have dreams.
Yes.
And you had a dream that you'll never forget. When you were a little girl, you had a dream, and you woke up one night and you told your parents or your family.
Yeah, it wasn't really a dream. I used to play in the bathroom in front of, we had a full-length mirror, or a wall-length mirror on one side of my bathroom, and then a medicine cabinet with a mirror on the other side. So if you opened the door of the medicine cabinet, you could get this kind of infinity image of yourself. You went on and on forever. So I used to shut the door and sing in front of my medicine cabinet. And one evening after doing that, I went out to my parents and I said, you know what, when I grow up, I am going to be an internationally known jazz singer, well respected by musicians, and I'm going to live in Paris, France, and I'm going to buy you a house.
And
that was, of course,
Wow.
I was 7 years old. So they were
Wow.
like, yeah, but It came to pass, all of that. And what was always fascinating to me, and I don't know where it came from, was this respect by musicians. Internationally known and well respected by musicians. I don't know where that came from.
Even at that tender young age,
Yeah.
you understood, you realized the significance of being respected by musicians.
What can I say, Doc? It was, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. Well, my father was a trumpet player also, but I really don't know where that came from. But it was really important. I remember feeling the importance of having the respect from musicians at that young age. So, who knows?
You were a bit wiser than your years.
Obviously.
Some might say you were a bit somewhat precocious of sorts, but you had that foresight. You had the insight.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just, but I've always had not visions necessarily, but I have seen things, and I do have, I call it my God voice, but I have this voice that speaks to me from time to time that says things that, and then I listen and I go, maybe I'm supposed to do this thing, so.
I would dare say that you might be indeed in touch with a higher power.
Yes, I am. For certain things. And at my age now, now that I'm in my 70s, I have decided that I'm going to always listen to this voice and respect it and not question it and just do,
Well,
So,
may I make a request?
yes.
If the higher power does indeed tap you on the shoulder and tells you 6 random numbers, perhaps you feel so free as to share them with me.
No. If my higher power voice says to me 6 numbers random, I'm gonna play them. No. I'm not gonna share that one.
Well.
I might share the outcome of that. Like if I was to win the jackpot, in the lottery. But no.
Hey, you never know.
We never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, you were approximately 7 years of age, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first musical experience, other than singing in front of the mirror?
Well, my parents played music in the house. We had back in the day they called them Victrolas. We had a Victrola, and then
I remember.
and then we had the turntables later on. But there was always my father, when I was young, I remember listened to a lot of trios and quartets, and one of his favorite quartets was a quartet called the Quartet Très Bien. And then I remember hearing a lot this trio, the Roy Merriweather Trio. Okay. And then my mother listened to a lot of singers, and she listened to more obscure singers, but she listened to people like Gloria Lynn. I remember this one singer that she listened to a lot who didn't have a huge career, Marge Dodson. She listened to Lorez Alexandria. And so that's kind of what I listened to in the house. Then I was listening to the radio, like the local black station,
correct,
which was called WAMM, Wham Radio. And so I listened to, top 50, whatever I could tune in.
Top of the chart.
And it wasn't until, Motown came into existence in 1962 that I started focusing in on, the Motown groups. And we had a group that signed to Motown from Flint, Michigan, and 2 of the members lived a block away from me.
What group was
and that group, Lord, now I just forgot their name. Boo!
The higher power will get back to you.
I will pull it up. I will pull it up. But yeah.
So did you share your, I'll call it, epiphany or vision with your friends? Your
No,
contemporaries?
no. I was 7, so it was just something that I said to my
Okay,
parents.
right.
But when Motown came on the scene, we would put together little singing groups, and so I created a singing group with 2 girlfriends of mine, and we called ourselves the Iridescents, the Marvelettes. Thank you. Phew, I found it. The Marvelettes is the name of the group that came
Right.
out of
Okay.
Flint. Okay. So I put together this singing group called the Iridescents, and we modeled ourselves after the Marvelettes and, different groups from Motown, of course, Diana Ross and the Supremes. And we would sing background for the local male singers at talent contests because back then we had music in the schools. There were a lot of local talent contests, but every school had music programs. And so we would do these background singings, and then we would, perform at our high school, for talent shows, and then we would enter into local talent contests and stuff. And so I did that with these women, young women at the time. So I started this group when we were 14, and by the time we were 16, and I was writing songs with another friend who played piano. We were coming up with songs. And at the age of 16, my other 2 girlfriends became more interested in boys. And so
Not
they didn't want
surprising.
to rehearse. My father saw that I was serious, and so I entered some talent contests, and I won a talent contest, and my prize was to sing at a local club, and it was called the Motor City. And I was 16, so I couldn't be in the club because they served alcohol.
Correct.
I had to sit in the kitchen. And who was performing that night was a young George Benson with Grant Green.
Wow.
So when they would have their breaks, then I would go and perform. So that was my first taste of performing in front of people and live, and I loved it. Fast forward, and I was at the University of Illinois. I had switched there from Michigan State University, and then I was asked to perform with their big band, and I did a State Department tour with the University of Illinois Jazz Band. We went to Russia, and that's where I met my first husband, Cecil Bridgewater, and then we fell in love, and then we got married. Then we moved to New York. So 1970, I started singing with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra,
correct.
and I wasn't comfortable in front of an audience. I was very shy. So singing with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra every Monday night, and then touring with the orchestra, that was when I began to develop a sense of confidence and comfort with being in front of a public. When I was younger, when I was during the period that I was with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, we didn't have a sound system. There wasn't a good sound system at the Village Vanguard. And so I had to sing over that band. And I had to learn how to do the breathing. And a woman named Gladys de Jesus came to see me one evening at the Vanguard and said, I need to teach you how to breathe. So I learned how to breathe. I learned about breathing from my diaphragm.
Correct.
And I learned how to project my voice from this woman, Gladys de Jesus, while I was working with the band.
So she was a blessing.
She was definitely a blessing. So when I got my role in The Wiz, I was the only principal performer in the original cast who sang without a microphone. Every other principal performer had to be mic'd with, they called them levelure microphones, which gave them a different sound than I. I was picked up by the mics that they had hanging and then the floor mics because I was just singing and projecting. But it was because I had worked for 4 years with that big band every Monday night. So my voice had developed and, I had a different kind of strength than the other principals.
Yeah.
And also, I was the only principal performer in The Wiz who was allowed to improvise my songs. So when anybody else would try to improvise because they heard me doing it, they were told stick with the melody,
Keep it simple.
keep it simple.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah. So, but I was because I came from jazz,
Correct.
so
So that was your natural habitat of sorts. You were in your element.
well, I grew up listening to jazz, surrounded by jazz, but I also grew up with top 50 with Motown and soul music, so I think I had more versatility
Right.
with my voice.
Well, diverse, diversi- being diversified is basically the story of your life. I mean, in the Wiz, Glenda, the Good Witch of the South. I saw that you had you did something with Joe Morton in the Brother from Another Planet. Is that true?
Yeah. I was in that movie. I
I've
had the
watched.
famous line, we had a love scene. I was a singer in a club, and the club was in Harlem, but
Yes.
I was a singer in this club, and he comes into this club one night, and he's sitting at the table that I go to sit at, and I end up inviting him to my hotel room. I guess I was kind of loose. That's me. And I said, "You were good in bed last night, but you got to do something about them toenails."
That
That
was
famous
you?
line. Yes, that was me.
Oh, well, excuse me. As
Yeah.
I live and breathe, I do
Yeah.
declare.
Yeah.
That was
yeah,
you.
That was me.
I know you collaborate with the United Nations. You did your thing with International Jazz Day. You have something going on with the Kennedy Center, if I'm not mistaken. But in addition to that, you have a project, I would call it, the Woodshed. Would you mind touching on that?
Yeah, it's called the Woodshed Network. It's a mentoring program for young women in jazz. And I explained that I wanted to create this safe space. And that is how my program was born, the Woodshed Network, as it's called. So it began in 2019, and it was a program, a mentoring program, where I wanted to address all of the business aspects of a career, because something that I found when I would do master classes or even with the Jazz Ahead program, all of these young people would sit down with us on the last day of the program, and they all wanted to know, how do I get an agent? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I find management? And I was like, wow, they're not getting this information in their music school programs.
Correct.
And, they've all paid all of this money and they're coming out and they still don't know what to do with their career or how to launch it. So I decided that that was the part of the business that I was going to deal with. And I don't deal with the music at all. All of these artists that come to my program, I have a panel of 4 people that listens to their music to find out the different levels and to see if they're at a level that I would accept for them to be a part of the program. And then after that, it's for women. It is with women advisors, and we deal with everything from press, starting your websites, accounting, reading contracts, doing contracts, getting booking agents, booking, management, and we have people from all of those different areas, women from all of those different areas, who speaks to these young women. I have 12 women that are in the program every year. We've done 4 years, and now we're on a bit of a hiatus because I'm going to be changing the nonprofit that I'm associated with for another nonprofit, and but that's what I do.
Well,
I love mentoring. I love sharing my knowledge and my experiences with young people, male and female. I also mentored Theo Croker. I'm very much responsible for Theo's career.
Theo and I,
Getting,
Theo's a cool brother,
his
yeah.
getting his start here in the United States. I convinced him to move back from China. He was living in Shanghai, and that's where I met
Doc
him.
Cheatham's grandson.
Yeah. I met him on 2 different occasions, and on the second occasion, I was like, "Why are you here? Why you need to come back to the States?" And so I had my Billie Holiday album had come out, and so I was touring. And I said, listen, if you can get yourself a ticket to Europe, I will put you on with my band, and I will introduce you. And
I
so he
remember
got
that.
a ticket,
I
and he
remember
showed
that.
up in
I
Nice.
remember that.
But he did this tour with me. And then after that, I said, listen, we talk and talk and talk. And so then I produced him his first album, which was Afrophysicist,
Right.
and his second album. He produced, but I had a licensing deal at that time. And so I just made him a part of my label. All of that to say that I have mentored men and young women. There's no
discrimination.
discrimination.
Equal opportunity.
And I started mentoring young men before my idea to do the Woodshed Network. But I've always been open to young people when they've come to me and they wanted advice, and if I could share anything, I have, from dressing. I'll never forget, I ran into India Owens.
India, sure. The bass player.
India, she was on Adam Clayton Powell. She was pushing her bass, her upright bass. It was in a case, and I was coming towards her, and I just stopped her. I said, "Who are you?" She introduced herself to me, and I said, "Okay, we got to get together," and da-da-da. And we didn't get together, but, I would run into her, and we had conversations about her image and how she dressed. And so I helped her with that, and now look at her.
Well, you know what? The ancestors, your higher power, just told you, for what it's worth, to touch on fashion. Because you, in my mind, are a card-carrying fashionista.
I have always loved dressing, and as I've gotten more successful, I've elevated, the clothing that I wear, and so I like brands. I love brands. So I'm like wearing Gucci. I've got on Alexander McQueen. I've got a Dolce & Gabbana top. I'm wearing a very hip new eyewear designer. This is Coexist. I have on 6397 jeans. I have on Golden Goose. I love, but I say all of that to say that because I have gotten to this level, I mean, I will just mix it up, but I see the difference in how people will respond to me as opposed to someone else who is not dressed a certain way. And so I know the power of the image that one creates.
It's not what you do, it's how you do what you do. We all dress, we all adorn ourselves with clothing, but everyone does not have the blessing of having the knack to know how to put it together.
You do. You've always been a fabulous dresser, which is one of the things that attracted me to you. Because I felt that, I know this person has an appreciation, because it's kind of like art, isn't it? When we put something together, an outfit together to go out.
It is an art form.
It's a form of art.
It is an art form. It's
so,
expression.
And to be able to go through your closet and pull pieces and put them together, that's a lot of fun,
it's
isn't
so
it?
much fun.
Isn't it fun?
Oh my God.
So,
It's
so I know that you know that.
Right.
But and then you get a certain kind of treatment. You get entry based on your look.
Well, you know
I
what?
get entry
But wait a minute.
based on the look.
Let's slow down.
No.
Yes, because you, let the record show, let the truth be told, you inspire me.
Yeah, but Doc, anytime I see, like when you post stuff and even pictures that you send me from when you've met people, you are always dressed. So it's a fascinating thing, but people pay attention to this kind of stuff. And you do get entry, and you get entry because of the way that you look.
I'm stealing a page out of your book.
But really, and you're a black man.
Indeed.
So as a black man, when you walk into a space and people see you, and they, you represent something that is classy, is artistic, it's a whole lot of stuff. But it gives you a certain kind of...
The entree.
Yeah, entree.
Indeed.
And so I always try and explain that to my musicians, to, especially to the young women that I'm working with in this program. So it was really fun for me to see them in person, because these are women that I worked with, and my program has been over Zoom since the pandemic. It was only the first year that I did the program that it was live. But to see them in person and to see that they'd taken note about the whole, how do I present myself? And each of them was like, Mama Dee Dee, am I okay? Do I look, it was beautiful.
It's very fulfilling. It's heartwarming.
Yeah, it is.
Gratifying.
It is to see that, they paid attention.
That you planted those seeds and that they began to blood and germinate and indeed bloom. Let's play a bit of more hopscotch.
Okay.
In terms of artists or people in the music world that you have collaborated. Name association. I'll bounce a few names off for you and just tell me what comes to mind. I'll pick a few guys off the top of my head. Okay, let's say Sarah Vaughan. What comes to mind?
Oh, I mean, sassy. It's velvet tones. It's just absolutely velvet tones. Sarah Vaughan has one of the most luscious voices that I've ever heard. Sarah Vaughan, for me, is the epitome of a singer because of the range that she had and how she could use her voice and her musicianship. I mean, a lot of people think about, of course, we say Ella Fitzgerald, the Queen.
Indeed.
Our First Lady. Or we will say Billie Holiday. But oftentimes Sarah gets left off the list. So sassy. And then we celebrated her 100th anniversary last year. So that's what I say about Sarah Vaughan.
Ray Charles.
Oh. What do I think about Ray Charles?
Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I have to say the thing about Ray Charles that is wonderful for me is that he accepted to do a duet with me. We had a duet together called Precious Thing that we recorded in 1989, and there's a video available if people want to look at it, because it was never released in the United States. We did it in Paris, France. And I worked with Ray Charles for 2 years, off and on. We did all the major television shows in Europe and in France, and did concert performances together in Europe. And he was a very wonderful individual with me.
Okay. Chet Baker.
Oh, I love Chet. I met Chet. That brings tears. I met Chet with the gentleman who produced my my album on Atlantic Records. His name was Jerry Wexler, very, very famous producer.
I know,
he produced
yes,
all of
Jerry
Aretha's
Wexler.
albums.
Indeed.
And he says, I want to take you to listen to someone. He didn't say who, what, anything. And he took me to a place that, I guess it was a club, but Chet Baker was in the window. It must have been a place that had been a store, a boutique. And Chet Baker was kind of sitting in the window of this space. I never can pull up the place. In a chair, playing solo. And we walked in, and I heard him, and I fell in love.
That mournful tone.
Oh my God. And Chet and I became dear friends.
Wow.
And I was playing at a very famous club in Paris called Le Palace. And the two gentlemen that owned it, I had become friends with. And so they hired me to play after I had decided to stay in Paris after doing Sophisticated Ladies there. And one of the pianists and it was just piano and voice, unmiked, in an alcove.
Wow.
And in the restaurant of the Palace, which was downstairs, and it was called Le Privilège. And we would play in the corner. And a particular pianist that I worked with, Michel Graillet was his name, was Chet Baker's pianist. And I went over to Michel's to rehearse, and there was Chet. And so Chet, when Michel and I would play together, would always come and sit in this alcove and just play. But nobody could see him where he was sitting because
Correct.
it was an alcove, and he would kind of hide in that section where nobody could see him.
Obscured, yeah.
And yeah, I was with Chet 2 weeks before
Right to the end.
till he died. And the evening that I went to see him at a club in Paris called the New Morning, he had gotten very high. He had shot up, and he didn't come out for about an hour. And when he came out, he just sat on the stage in a folding chair. That it was just him, because he had used all of his money to shoot up, and so he couldn't pay the band. So he just came solo. And so I went to see him afterwards, and we were talking, and I said, Chet, are you okay? And he said, no, I'm tired. And I said, tired, you haven't had enough sleep, tired, tired from touring, or tired like I want to leave, quit being on this planet. He said, I'm tired of living. And I said, well, Chet, your life is your own, and that decision is your decision. If, there's nothing we can say. If you don't want to be here anymore, that's your choice. And 2 weeks later, that was his choice.
Fell out that window. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
Yeah. But I love
Wow, it was very heartbreaking.
Chet.
Oh yeah, his tone and his voice. His voice.
That tone.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It touches, gets you right there
Yeah.
every time. Wow.
Yeah.
Singular voice, indeed. Last but not least, one of my all-time favorites, saxophonist, Dexter Gordon.
How do you pull out these names? Dexter. Oh, I love Dexter. The thing I loved about Dexter was Dexter the man. It wasn't about the sound of his horn. It was the person that I just was infatuated with, this man. And Dexter came to Paris when I had first gotten to Paris. Dexter was there. He was with Maxine then, and he was playing at a kind of brasserie. And I went to check him out, and I ended up sitting in with him. And the thing that I just remember about Dexter was he was always so debonair. I always loved his look.
Wow.
And he always treated me like a lady. He said, you are a lady. He would always say to me, you are a lady, and I'm going to treat you like a lady. So that's my thing about Dexter.
Oh my God, Dexter Gordon.
But Dexter, yeah.
One of the all-time greats. Dee, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, how would I like to be
In
remembered? I don't know. I'd just
Say-
like to be remembered.
Dee, okay, because a lot of us, a lot of people are gone and forgotten.
I'm gonna be 75 this year, and I don't know. I think I would like to be remembered as a good singer, a musician's singer. I always have thought of myself more of as a musician than a singer. Someone who was caring, who mentored, who nurtured. I don't know. That's a hard question. How would I like to be remembered?
Well,
But really, I would just like to be remembered.
you will be remembered indeed as one of the all-time greats. As part of the continuum of great female vocalists. I don't say jazz female vocalists. I don't say female vocalists. I say vocalists of this past 20th century into the new century. You are standing on the shoulders of giants,
Yes.
and future generations of vocalists will indeed stand on your shoulders because you have been anointed, You are that girl, indeed. We cannot
Val.
see ourselves the way that others see us.
No, we cannot.
However, if you could indeed see the way that others see you, you are greatly loved and highly favored indeed.
Well, I do feel the love, and every time I'm out, and like having been at the Jazz Congress and then at APAP, and you know, I received a lot of love, and I know that I am loved, and then I love, and I guess I would like to be remembered as someone who was very giving, someone who was humble, and who was a musician. Because I think of my voice as a trumpet, and I've always loved the trumpet. Probably it's my, the father syndrome. My father
Indeed. It's in DNA. It's in
played
DNA.
trumpet.
It's in the genes.
But and I've always favored trumpet players. My heroes have all been trumpet players. And Miles was my biggest. And Dizzy.
And with that being said, I trumpet your greatness.
Oh, thank you. I like that.
And with that being said, that brings us to the conclusion of the inaugural broadcast of In the Gray Zone, where I've had the pleasure of being with my sister from another mister, the fabulous Miss Dee Dee Bridgewater. And until next time, I would like for you to stay focused, stay strong, keep the faith, and till we meet again, stay in the gray zone. Ciao.
Ciao.